Is returning to the office making you cringe? This is my story from overworked agent to fully remote transaction coordinator business owner. Hey, I'm Milan, transaction coordinator and business coach. If you are new to my channel, welcome. And if you are already a subscriber, welcome back. Here's where I share tips on starting an online transaction coordinator business. If you find the information that I share to be helpful and valuable, feel free to hit the like button, share, and subscribe for future videos. Today, I'm going to share my story on how I got into this business as a transaction coordinator. So first, how I got into real estate. I initially got into real estate when I purchased my first home. I really enjoyed the entire process. Going out and looking at houses, just looking online, the different characters that each house had. It just led me to my love of real estate. And I, figured, okay, my real estate agent, she was great. She seemed like she enjoyed what she did. And I was like, you know what? I think I can do this too. So that was in 2008. When I first got my real estate license, I didn't do a whole lot in real estate. At that time, I was actually a stay-at-home mom. I had 3 children, all under the age of 3, and me and my husband at the time just decided that it was the best idea for me to stay at home. After a few years, unfortunately, I went through a divorce. I really can honestly say I felt like I was living the American dream prior to this divorce. When the divorce happened, I just felt like my entire world crashed. I had 3 children under the age of 5. I was actually living in North Carolina with my ex-husband, so I relocated back to Maryland. So I still had my real estate license in North Carolina, and I thought, why don't I get my real estate license in my hometown? I already knew people, I had my family, my friends, and if they wanted to buy a house, it would be perfect if I had my real estate license. From there, I still had my license. However, I didn't realize how expensive it was to keep an active license, because when I had my license in North Carolina, my license was in what you call a referral status. And so when your license is in referral, you don't have to pay board dues, you don't have to pay MLS fees. You just keep paying your yearly, well, it depends. It could be yearly or every 2 years to just keep your license. And I had to do my continuing education every 2 years to keep my license, but I didn't have an active license. So when I moved back to Maryland and I wanted to get an active license, I had to consider the costs. I worked as a pharmacy technician while I pursued getting my Maryland real estate license. Working at a pharmacy was awesome. However, being a mom, having 3 children, and at this time I was a single parent, it was very expensive to live. So I had to work multiple jobs. I worked as a personal trainer. I worked as a Lyft, an Uber driver. I even had a girl vomit in my car one night. I worked as a brand ambassador. I worked in different grocery stores, the people that you see handing out samples for companies. That was me. I did all this while I was trying to come up with the money for my real estate license. I did not have to take pre-licensing courses all over again in the state of Maryland. I pretty much just had to get some sort of exam prep course, and that way I could be knowledgeable on the laws in the state of Maryland. Having your real estate license, you have to know all of the laws. Even though you're not a lawyer, you have to know property laws so you don't break them. It is a lot of information when you do get your real estate license, and you learn all of this information in a very short time. Once I passed my Maryland real estate license exam, I was super excited. But again, it is not cheap to have a real estate license. And I continued to work full time as a pharmacy technician. I would go into work at 9 o'clock in the morning and I would leave work about 5:30, 6 o'clock. I would literally go to the library and change out of my scrubs into my professional wear and go show properties until about 9:30 at night. Of course, this was definitely a lot considering that I did have 3 children, a single mom. I did have the support of family, but it was still a lot in the sense that I felt like I was missing out on my children. As they got a little bit older, I would take them with me to the office. I'd take my oldest one with me to open houses. And eventually they started having their own activities. And most of the activities that they had were activities that were sports related and happened on the weekends. One of the agents in my office at the time mentioned that they were looking for an assistant. I thought, well, this would be a good way for me to, one, continue to get more experience with someone that had more experience than I did at that time, as well as have team support if I was unavailable to show a property or go to a listing appointment. My team leader or team members would be available to kind of step in for me. I continued working with this particular team for about a year. And then I actually left the brokerage that I was with and I joined a brokerage who focused a lot on what you call REO properties. REO properties are bank owned properties. The particular relationship that we had with the bank was with Freddie Mac. I was in charge of receiving the assets, the properties. A lot of times these properties were not in the best condition. When you see $1 million real estate agents or multi-million-dollar real estate agents on TV and it's glamorous, I can tell you these properties were nothing like that. I had to go in with my boots, with gloves. There were basements that had been untouched for months. A lot of the houses, of course, were already vacant. And so I had to meet contractors at these properties to determine the costs. I had to perform what you call BPOs, which are broker price opinions. BPOs, you just are doing estimates for what it might cost to replace the flooring or paint or replace the roof or the HVAC system or the electrical system. I was able to get a lot of knowledge being an REO agent on not just buying and selling, but also the renovation process and bringing the properties up to standard to be able to sell or resell. I did that for about 2 years. I eventually transitioned from an REO agent back to a real estate agent working with buyers and sellers on a team. This particular team, we would have meetings weekly in office, and there was one particular time that our team leader had either a listing appointment or had something going on and had given us a call and said that he wasn't going to make it back to the office in time for our meeting and asked if I could facilitate the meeting. And at first I was just like, what do you mean you're not going to be back? Me? In my head, I'm thinking like, why me? I said yes, of course, and I facilitated the meeting that evening for the team members that were there in our office. It actually went really well, and I've found that I enjoyed just teaching and being able to help others on the team. That eventually led them to reaching out and asking me more questions about their transactions. I became sort of like an additional resource or an extension of our team leader. I started brainstorming and it hit me. This is exactly what I can do to get me back at home, not having to get home at 9 o'clock at night, not having to drive 45 minutes, being a real estate transaction coordinator, helping others manage their real estate transactions. So I first started helping out our team with our deals, and eventually I started branching out to help other real estate agents with their real estate transactions as well. I had this idea to host a seminar, just kind of launching my real estate transaction coordinator business. And I felt this would be a good way to network with agents. So I made some calls to the agents that I had in my network already. And I started even cold calling additional real estate agents to invite them out to my seminar. I decided to host this seminar on a Saturday morning. I should have known better, right? Saturday morning around 10, 11. What are real estate agents typically doing? Out showing houses. No one showed up for my seminar except for my wonderful cousin, who she is in AV, and she was there to help me with the sound system and my PowerPoint presentation. And I am so grateful for her because she showed up for me even though there was an empty conference room. I felt like I had made the worst decision going into real estate transaction coordination. What am I thinking that I'm going to actually make a full-time income and business from this? I felt like I had failed. Over the next 2 weeks, people that I had reached out to invite them to the seminar started calling me and inquiring about my real estate transaction coordination services. From the moment I held the seminar, over the next 6 months, I had built up a full-time income, consistent income as a transaction coordinator. Challenges that I had going from real estate agent to transaction coordinator were that I had some bad habits as a real estate agent. I had been so used to mainly handling my own real estate transactions that I relied a lot on my memory. I didn't really have any systems or processes in place. It was sort of a learning curve, just an adjustment. I had to get familiar with just building out a system that helped keep me more organized, especially since I was handling multiple transactions, working with multiple real estate agents. Continued for the next 2 years as a full-time real estate independent transaction coordinator. I had built up a clientele well enough that it was time for me to hire my first team member. So my first team member was actually an assistant. I had found that there were just repetitive tasks that I was doing, um, tasks that were more data entry. I could delegate that task to my assistant to reduce the time that it took me to get my real estate transactions or files started. So that was my first hire. As an assistant, she worked part-time. She was great. From there, our team just continued to expand. We were handling more files as a team. So I brought on 2 transaction coordinators and a marketing virtual assistant for our team. In 2020, I made the decision to start teaching other moms who were maybe like me, a single mom who needed a remote business that I could work from home or I could work anywhere. There were times that I would take my laptop along with me to soccer games and just sit and work while I was watching the games. Also, be able to support your family. So bringing in enough income. I'm not going to say that this is a career or a business that you can just get rich quick from. This is a business like any business. It takes time, it takes dedication, it might take some sacrifice, and you build this business and you build these relationships with your clients, your real estate agent clients, who then become your referral partners. I decided to launch a new transaction coordinator academy, with my first course being a mini course on what your role as a real estate transaction coordinator is. A lot of people aren't familiar with a real estate transaction coordinator because we kind of work behind the scenes. However, we are a very important aspect of the real estate deal because a lot of our tasks are making sure that the deal goes smoothly from the moment the deal goes under contract to the time that the property goes to closing or your buyers and sellers go to settlement. From my mini course, I started building out my flagship course, Kickstart Your Career as a Real Estate Transaction Coordinator. I took everything that I had learned in the real estate industry as a real estate agent, a business owner, and a transaction coordinator, and just poured into this course. In the course, I teach how to build out your systems, which tools to use as a real estate transaction coordinator, how to organize your day so that you don't feel overwhelmed being a transaction coordinator, business owner, as well as email templates. So how to communicate as a real estate transaction coordinator, who you will communicate with as a real estate transaction coordinator, how to structure your business as a real estate transaction coordinator, client agreements, client onboarding, as well as contract review, getting familiar with the paperwork as a real estate transaction coordinator, networking and marketing yourself as a real estate transaction coordinator, and growing your real estate transaction coordinator business. My passion just really continued to just evolve. So it was no longer just about real estate, but it was about teaching other moms how to do exactly what I did, because I felt like if I can do it, anybody can do it. Not only am I working with buyers, sellers, agents, loan officers, title companies, but I'm working with other transaction coordinators, and more in particular, moms who are just like me, who need to work from home to be there for their kids because they have a family, single moms. Families depend on you, not just for everything in the house, but household bills and taking care of everyone when they're sick, being able to keep your child home from school without having to miss a day of work. Being in this business, I've not only been able to be there for my kids, but I've also been able to be there for myself more. I've been able to have more time for hobbies, some of my own personal goals, and some of my other passions. That is my journey in a nutshell. My journey has had a lot of twists, turns. It has not always been a straight path, but I hope that my story encourages you to not give up on your journey, regardless of what it looks like. You might have to take a detour. You might hit some speed bumps, some roadblocks, some potholes, but your destination is your destiny. And regardless of how things look, your reward is so much greater. And a lot of times, our purposes are so much bigger than ourselves. So I hope that my story encourages you. I know it's not easy, and not to say that everything in my life is great and easy, but I have so much gratitude to be able to work in this industry and to also teach, and help others. Thanks for hanging out with me, and thank you for watching, and I will see you in another video soon.